Now let's again go to the service, right? So sorry. First the customer go to the schema, and then in the schema page, customer will see the schema, all the schema, and also checks whether some object he require or not, or whether some field is being required by him or not. So how that thing is being done is from method schema config, I guess. In service class there is method schema config. So yeah, this is the standard config. So this is the standard config method. So whenever schema page is being clicked, this method is being called. Now there are certain things here that we need. There are so many things here, like there are so many configurations that are there. So first, what we do for creating the schema, first we call on to the list of objects, like we do API call of /s objects, and we get all the objects. Now for each object we check, we check certain things, like whether that object is queryable or not, whether that object is excluded by system or not. This thing, if let's suppose some object is excluded by system, so we will discuss like what when some object can be excluded by system. But let's suppose some object is in excluded by system, so we have to mark that object as excluded by system in the settings of the schema page. So that we do here. And yeah, and there are some other objects like re-import objects or child objects in Salesforce. So we do not recommend customers to sync those, because syncing those can be complex. So that's why we add not recommended or not excluded by system kind of flags in standard config. So
And Vishal, just to interrupt there, why are they? Can you expand on why they're not recommended?
yeah, we will discuss this when we go through the flows of them. Like when we go to
Perfect.
the flow of them, then we will discuss it. So now we have created the standard config of it. Now customer, let's suppose customer selects what he needs to select. Now he will just click on update now or do initial sync. Now what will happen after that? Again we go to the service. Just a second. Yeah, so we have again gone to our, oh sorry, we have again gone to the service. So now when the customer click update button or initial sync button, this method is being called, this update method is being called. Now what happened after this update method? Let's go to this method once. So now this update method is there, so all the stuff happens here. So this update method has taken only two things, the output and the standard config. Because standard config is that the update method should know like which objects are being selected and which objects are not selected, to determine whether to sync this object or not. So now, okay, so let's suppose, so there are some filters that we do to check whether this object is in history mode or not. And we know whether some object is in history mode or not by the standard config, because standard config has one some set of tables. In that it is there, like the history tables are there. So from that we will know whether this object or this table is in history mode or not. We will use this information later when we sync the object. Now what we do after that, we do something like we initialize standard config and some stuff we do. Now the next thing that is important is, first what we do, we create the queue of objects, right? Now how we will create the queue of the objects, let's go through that. So first let's go through how we create the queue of objects. So first is very simple thing, we do API call /s objects to get the list of all the objects. So this is and we loop it to every object, and for every object we check some conditions. Now see what checks we do. Now some checks are uh, whether so we'll go one by one. So whether this table is activity or metric rollup table or not. I doesn't remember exactly why we are not considering this table. Sorry, I remember. We are getting, whenever we try to query this table, we were getting some error. Like even if we do select ID from this table, we are getting some error. So that's why this thing is being added. So while preparing queue, so now we are trying to prepare the queue for the to sync those objects. Now we will not consider this table while preparing the queue. It doesn't matter whether it is selected by customer or not. Uh, we will not consider this table. Now next stuff is we will check whether some table is being excluded by system and it is not non-recoverable or not. So let's suppose there is some table that is excluded by system, and we can't even recover that. So for tables that are excluded by system, if we can recover that, we will try to recover that. If we can't, then we mark again as excluded by system. So these are the reasons we check, like because of these reasons. So these, due to all these reasons, it can happen they are not recoverable. So for example, if some object doesn't contain modified field, or some object doesn't support limit filter, or some object is a big object, so all these cases that are mentioned here, we can't recover that object. So in these cases, this object is not recoverable. That is one thing. Now, what are the other conditions on which we exclude object while preparing a to-do queue? So one thing is limit, supports limits or not, whether this object is big object or not, whether we are able to query this object or not. So all this information we get when we do /s object call. So in that we will get information about the every object. So now the some other conditions are whether this object has external data source, or whether this object duplicates history data or not. And there are some conditions that can be checked there. So in all these cases, we will mark these tables excluded by system. Now come to some other cases. Now this is yeah. Head.
Yeah. So I want to talk about, so with the excluded by system, I just want to add how the customer experience will look like on the schema page. So what happens is that so we add we added these tables as excluded by system during a sync. So once the sync is complete, this is saved in our state, which means that so suppose that the sync is not running. Now customer went to the schema page. Now he will see the bunch of tables as excluded by system. Right? The moment the sync starts, what we do is we remove these tables from the excluded by system, and then we try to process it again. Which means that during the sync, it may happen that some of the tables will become selectable. So that is something that will be a user experience in this case.
Yeah.
Understood. Thanks, Shiva. That's really useful, actually. So even though they're non-recoverable during the sync, we make the request to the S-objects endpoint again, try and loop through and try and recover them. And so during the sync, they may be selectable within the schema. That makes sense.
Yeah. So okay. So continuing that. So some other things are, so for the tables that are not included tables. Not included tables means that are not selectable in the schema page. So the tables that are not selectable in the schema page, we mark these tables as not configured tables. Like we do that, just we log this thing to that this thing helps us in debugging. So if you look at it, so we log all the tables that are not selected by the user. So it sometimes helps us in debugging. So this is the log that we do. So this may help. So when you do debugging, you have to search for this non_configured. So this will give you all the tables that are not selected by the user, but they are there in the Salesforce. So this is one thing. So now again, now come to the next conditions. Now here, so this is a very big condition. So this basically checks for the checks for the infrequently updated tables. So there can be some tables that that might not update very frequently, right? So for the tables that might not update frequently, we mark them. So we consider those tables as infrequently updated tables, and we sync those tables every week. So that is also one thing.
So this is again another feature that we need to keep in mind, because sometimes what can happen is if there's no data coming from one table for say 2 or 3 days continuously, then we don't sync the table every day. We will sync it only once in a week. So that is the logic. So the moment more and more data starts appearing on the table regularly, we start to sync it regularly as well. Based on the amount of data, this logic is decided.
That makes sense. And with that condition, do we mark that table, or do we provide that information in the logs? So can we easily see the list of tables that have been marked as not frequently updated, or do we need to look at the state object for that based on the last number of syncs?
We doesn't mark anything for those things. So from the logs you can see like there is skip table type. So if you search for skip table in the logs, you will get all the names of the tables
Perfect.
that are in.
Yeah. And
Brilliant.
another thing is that you can also check in the state. So in state there are two variables. One variable is called last modified and another variable is called last checked. So last checked will tell you how, when we checked for this table last time. Last modified will tell you what is the data, when we received the data for this table last time. So last checked will always be the sync time. So suppose that I got the data 3 days ago, the last updated would be 3 days ago, but the last check would be now because I just checked the table. So we can identify between these two variables.
That's really useful. That's brilliant information. Thanks, Shiva. Thanks, Vishal, as well. I can see that, in the code. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep. So now from this function, from this to do function, we have prepared all the objects that we are going to sync now, right? So we have prepared all the objects. Now we see like on which method we have to sync, whether we have to sync by bulk API or whether we have to sync via REST API. So first we will not go into the bulk API as of now. So we'll just go to the REST API. So there is one updater called as REST updater. So first we fetch the REST updater, and then we just just run. Yeah.
Before we go to REST updater, I give an overview about not in detail, but when do we call REST updater and when do we call bulk updater currently without the feature flag on?
Okay.
Then we can go to the REST updater in detail.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. So we have one feature flag in Salesforce called as Salesforce bulk API. So for this is for now, like what's happening currently is that we for the customers that were there in Salesforce bulk API 2 feature flag. So what happens is that we will invoke bulk updater for them and we sync the objects by this bulk updater. But the condition is in the bulk updater is that if there is initial sync for the object, if some sync is happening and there is initial sync happening for some object, we will consider syncing them via bulk, not by REST. And this is not for all the customers. This is for the customers that are inside this feature flag.
And why might they be added to that feature flag? What would be the reason for that?
Okay, so the reason would be, let's suppose there is one object that is very big object and it takes a lot of time for the REST to sync that object. So in that case, if the customer is in this feature flag, so we will sync that object via bulk API and only for the initial syncs, not for the incremental syncs.
Got it. And what's the trade-off there? So why are we not doing the bulk API for every customer? Does it hit rate limits more frequently? Does it cost more for the customer? Like, what's the reason that we don't use the bulk API for every customer?
So we have not tested that. Like that is the one thing. And other thing is that we are not able to do that incrementally. So one thing is that, and the thing that why we are not doing for every customer, because we were not sure about it completely. Like there are some issues with bulk API that we were seeing. So we have created new strategy for syncing via bulk. Now that new strategy will sync the incremental syncs as well and the initial sync as well. But that is all under the feature flag and no customer is on that feature flag. So we are testing that thing. After we test that thing, then we expose to other customers.
Okay, got it. And just to very quickly clarify, so at the moment, do we use the bulk API for initial syncs for any customer?
Yeah, we do. Like if you see this feature flag, let me check. So these are the customers that are in. So for these customers, for the initial sync of some table, we use bulk API.
Okay, cool. But it's very, very few.
Yeah, it's very, very few.
Okay, one of my customers is on there, so that's good to know. Perfect.
That is one thing. So now we will go through the rest. And we will also not use bulk API for many conditions. So there are small conditions we may discuss later. But there are many small conditions on which we can't use bulk, and we use rest for that. I'll discuss in the rest that why this thing can't be done by bulk. Okay, so now in the rest updater, we have passed that queue that we have created just now for the objects that we need to sync. So we pass this queue to this method, and we leave this method to sync those sync objects in the queue. Now what we do, we fetch one, like we remove one object from this queue, and we update we do update for this object. Now one tip for debugging it, so let's suppose you have to debug something. So in that debugging, let's suppose customer has selected 50 objects, but like when you are doing debugging or when you are doing run mock, so you don't have to sync all those 50 objects. It might take a lot of time. So one thing you can do, you can add a if condition here with object name equals, and whatever the object you are interested in, just add that object here, and then it will sync only that object that is in focus that you need, and we'll skip all other objects. So we'll consider this while debugging.